Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon to you.
Good morning. So I'm going to let our panorama person, thank you so much for coming, do a little bit more in-depth session.
Sure, no problem. Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time of your Friday to join me today. A brief introduction. My name is Diana Hernandez, and I'm a Client Success Manager here at UJA. And for today's session, let me go ahead and share my screen so you can see our agenda. Right, and I hope everyone is able to see my screen. So we'll go over as to what is Panorama, as well as explaining a little bit more about the accessibility reports that we generate for your files inside your courses, as well as how you are able to go in and remediate your documents using the tool, and also touch into talking more about PDFs and how you can remediate them using Panorama. Lastly, we'll cover the student view, so some of those alternative formats that are available for your students, and then just talking about the reporting itself that's available inside the console. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. I will also stop accordingly to answer any questions that come up. But other than that, let's go ahead and get started. So let me move this over. All right. So the first thing is if Panorama, if this is the first time you're hearing about it, Panorama is a digital accessibility tool that provides institutions like yours with the ability to correct the accessibility of your digital content inside your courses, as well as provide alternative formats for users that have any learning disabilities, but it also helps you stay up to date with, the ever-changing accessibility guidelines. And we do follow the WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 standards. Okay, so to give you more information is when Panorama is enabled in your course, you might notice a couple of icons showing up next to your files. It could be within your modules, in the file section, or even in your pages. So what Panorama does is it's going to go in and scan Word documents, PDFs, HTML files like your pages, Excel files, PowerPoint presentations. And what it's going to do is it's going to go in and scan and check to see if there's any accessibility issues. And if they are, it's going to flag them based on the severity, could be severe items, major, or minor, and then provide you with the score of what the accessibility is for that document. So, as you can see here on the right side, each icon is different shape and different color. And this is just to give you more information as to is the accessibility score high, medium, or is it very low? So if you go in and hover over the icon, you might see a score, or if you also click into it, you will see the panorama window. You'll see the overall score next to the report, as well as the different alternative formats that are available for this document. Okay, so let's talk more about the different accessibility reports and scores that are available for your files. So if we go in and click into the actual accessibility report, Panorama will give you an overview of the actual document here on the left side. And then over here on the right side, you'll have the accessibility report. So what that does is it's going to tell you, okay, this document is 63% accessible. We found 4 issues and we grade them as severe, major, or minor. If you look down here on the bottom, we give you each of the issues that we found. And Panorama also highlights the area where the issue is located. Okay. And um, if you're not too sure, especially if you're not too familiar as to not familiar with accessibility, this is the first time I'm hearing about it, you don't have to worry just because Panorama will give you all the information that you need. So as you click into those specific accessibility issues, Panorama will have a learn more. As you click into that link, we provide you video tutorials on how to fix this issue within the document itself, as well as steps and pictures on how to fix that issue. So in this instance, the font size is smaller than 9 points. So we give you instructions on how to change the font size within Word itself. Okay. And if we scroll all the way down, um, I'm sorry. If we scroll all the way up, we have a little tab here on the right side where it says what this means. And this just gives you more information about the actual issue as to what it means and also why it matters, why we should change this issue within our document. Okay. And it's just because 9 points just makes it a little really hard for users to read the content, especially if they have any visual impairments. Okay. All right. So as you can see, you can go through each of the issues, see steps, video tutorials on how to fix the document itself, as well as what the issue is. And if we scroll down, we have a window that's called Update Document. So once you make the changes that were recommended by Panorama, you can drag and drop that new file, the updated file in here, and we will update the file inside your course, the different alternative formats, as well as the score. Okay, so that's what we called manual remediation, where you work on the issues manually on the original document. Okay. However, Panorama does have what we call remediation engines, and these allow you to fix issues within the report itself. So you don't have to go back, look for the original document, pull it up, make the changes, save, re-upload it back in here, and so forth. So to make it a little bit easier, if you look next to the issue type, we have a fixed issue. And next to, if you click into that, it's going to take you to a window where it allows you to fix the issue here. So it's going to tell you, okay, the font size is smaller than 9 points. By default, we recommend 12 point, but you can select a different font size if you like. And then in the case that this issue comes up several times within your document, you can add the change to all the instances. So anywhere where the font size is smaller than 9 points, we'll make it 12 point. Okay. And then you can set add the fix. Okay. All right. So once we have done that, we can go ahead and click into the next issue. And it's now highlighting that this specific image doesn't have an alternative description. So what we need to do here is we just add the alternative description. So it could be political, science, word cloud, for example. Okay. Once we add that in, we can click add fix. And then it's going to take me to the next issue where we have a contrast issue. So by default, with a white background, we recommend a black text. However, if you want to select a different color just to make it stand out, you can select a different color and we tell you if that color that you pick passes accessibility or if it fails accessibility. So we can go in, pick a different color, and it will tell me. Okay. All right, so once I go ahead and add all of the fixes to my document, I can add fix and proceed to review. So we just get a little summary. So we are changing the font size issues. We are also addressing the alternative description, and we are changing the color for the text in the background. Okay, in the case that maybe you want to, let's make this a little bit bigger. You can go in and edit. So you can go in and say, all right, I want to make this 18 point and proceed to review. So you can see these are the changes that we will be making. Now I can apply. All right. So once we apply the fixes, what Panorama is going to do is one, it's going to update the document with the fixes that you provided. It's going to rescan the document to make sure there's no other accessibility issues that were not addressed. And also it's going to update the alternative formats that are available for those documents. So you saw the little confetti come up. Now we're at 100% accessibility. We also updated the document inside of your Canvas course. So that way, when you do course copy it in the next semester, you have the most up-to-date copy so you don't have to remediate it again. It's all good to go. Okay, right? So, one of the things I recommend is take advantage of those remediation engines just because as you can see here, it only took me a few minutes to remediate those issues instead of going in and manually remediating it. Right, and I do see a question here. Um, Go ahead.
Just curious, what does a screen reader do when you have different colored text like that?
So the screen reader is only going to detect the text and read that out loud to the user. It's also going to read the alternative descriptions, just like the one that we provided here for this image. It's just providing the information, the tags of the document, so the student knows the structure and what the content of the document has. I don't believe it provides with information about the color of the text. Typically, they just go in, read out loud the text, any images, any structure information about the document itself. Correct. Thank you, Whitney. The color contrast is for visual users. Uh-huh. Go ahead, Tiffany.
Yes, so I'm like looking at one of mine right now, and it's a Word document. It's a like a welcome letter that I have for my students, and it's saying
Uh-huh.
like a severe like issue because of like headers. So
Uh-huh.
should all of them we should be able to go in and like fix anything right in this? Is that correct? Because it's not allowing me to do that. I mean, I don't, maybe it's like user error, sorry, but I don't
Oh,
see where to go to fix that. I was able to fix another issue within
mhm.
this in the accessibility report, but this one, there's nowhere to do it. And it's about headings, like
Okay.
not having headings.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up. So one of the things that I also wanted to mention is that the remediation or the fix issue button will be available for the majority of the issue types. However, there are some that are not supported yet by the remediation engine. So in those cases, um, one, we recommend just working on the document on all the issues that have the fix issue. And once you do that, download and then just work on those issues that you don't have the capability of using the remediation engine. So we do have a list here, and I'll share this in the chat for you, where you can check we give you a checklist. So these are the documents that we support. This is the issues that Panorama flags, and it tells you if we provide the inline remediation. So as you can see, we tell you, okay, yes, you're able to fix this with Panorama, and then other items, you just have to work on the original document, but Panorama will give you information on how to fix it inside the original document. So what I'll do here is I'll paste in the chat the link to this checklist if you would like to check it out.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, great questions here. Um, all right, so again, if in the case you have one of those items where you're not able to use the fix issue item, you can go in and under more actions, you can download the source file. So that means you will download the document, work on the document manually, and then you can just drag and drop the file in here. So you can choose from your computer, select the file, and then we will re-upload it, rescan it, and then upload it into Canvas as well. Okay. All right. Some of key items to remember about the accessibility report here are if you look here on the right side under more actions, you can add documents to a to-do list. So in the case that maybe you are working on this document, but you run out of time and you want to go back to it later, you can add it to a to-do list. And I'll show you how to access that to-do list there. Also, you can export the accessibility report. So in the case that you want to send this report to someone else, you can download it as an Excel file. You can customize the color. So as Panorama flags issues, you might see that yellow highlight around where the issue is located. You can select a different color or how far apart the highlight is from the issue. And then in the case that you have some documents inside your course, maybe they're um, There are journal, section of a textbook. If you want to add a library reference, you can add it in here and you can add the information so that way your students are able to reference it back for the document. Okay. All right. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that Panorama does have a version log. So in the case that you remediated this document, but you don't want to lose access to the original, right next to update document, under more actions, you will have a version history. So what that means is you could always go back and revert the changes that you had made for this document. So you can restore to a version. So let's go back and click yes. And Panorama will bring everything back. So it will bring the alternative formats, all the changes back to its original form. So um, again, if we go back, we are back at the 63%, and now we have those 4 issues. So you never lose access to the original document. Okay. All right. So now that we talked about the accessibility report, as well as how to use the remediation engines or how to manually remediate a document, the next thing that I want to talk about are PDFs. So as you might have noticed, PDFs are typically the least accessible items within our courses. In a lot of the cases, um, these files are either scanned or untagged. So for those instances, we do have what we call OCR, so it's optical technology. I'm sorry, optical character recognition that allows us to add uh, text on top of those scanned images, add tags to PDFs to help us remediate the issues. Okay. So in this instance, I have a PDF, and if I click into it, you can see that it's 0% accessible, and that is because the document is scanned. So it is a copy of a section of a textbook that I have, and like the majority of those PDFs, they are inaccessible. So one of the things that we have is you can use the structural remediation, and you'll see the fix issue here that would allow you to replace it with a specific format using that OCR. So one would be is using the overlay. It's going to take the scan image and just add text on top of that image. So that way a screen reader is able to go in and detect the text and read the information out loud to the users. Or we also have a reconstructed PDF, and this will create a brand new PDF with the content, the text inside this image. Okay. So again, I recommend using the overlay in the case that you have a PDF where you have text, images, tables, graphs, just because it keeps the same image, it just adds the text on top of it. But in this instance, let's say I it's just text. Maybe it will look a lot nicer just to have a brand new PDF. I can use the reconstructed PDF. Okay. So once you select to use one of those alternative formats and review, and we apply the fixes, what Panorama is going to do is it's going to replace the original file with this new format. You can see here it's a brand new PDF. And then it's just going to flag if there's any other issues such as missing a title, maybe checking the reading order. So now it's able to detect to see if there's any other issues with this specific PDF, but it's no longer untag or scan. Okay. Now we are able to go in and detect the text inside this document. Okay. So if you have those type of documents, one is I recommend using the OCR formats to replace it. Once Panorama scans, then you can use what we call the structure remediation to look at the structure or add tags of this specific document. So if we click into the structure remediation here, you can see here that the structure remediation is going to give us the reading order. So if we toggle this on, this is the order that the screen reader is going to go in and read the elements of the document. If we look here on the right side, we have the elements. So it breaks it down by page. So it's going to tag a specific item as a paragraph. If it's not a paragraph, let's say it's a heading or a title, you can go in and add that specific tag in here, as well as list the language of the document. Okay. If you have any images, and I'll show you a different preview for this, but you can also add alternative text for images inside the PDF itself. This one is just plain text, but you could also use this. So the tags is, so to give you more information, the tags are used by the screen readers. So it's able to detect to see if this is a heading or if it's a paragraph or if it's an image, for example. And then the order is the order that it will read the information out loud to the student. So you just want to verify that one, it has the correct tag, that it's either a title, a paragraph, a heading, and two is that the reading order makes sense, because you don't want the screen reader to, let's say, jump from David Easton and then keep reading on to furthermore. So you want it to read each element with the correct tag as well as the correct order. So yeah, no problem. So the structure remediation allows you to see the reading order as well as over here, see the tags. And you could always restructure the order if you want to move them around. So you can see them. And then let me open up a new document so I can show you one that has images as well. All right. This one has, actually, it's not this one. Give me one moment. All right, we have the same document, but now it's a PDF. If we launch the structure remediation, we can see the reading order. So this one, we can go ahead and select the tags and we can revise them. We can add a specific tag. If we have any images, we can see here that it detected my image. I can either add the text here or I can click to also generate using AI. So one of the things that it's going to tell me is going to provide that alternative description for my image using AI. And then also just going in and checking each individual tag. And again, I can move them around if I like. Okay. So once you are done, you can go ahead and exit out, and then you can continue remediating any other items that we flagged for the specific PDF. Okay. Um, so to summarize here for PDFs is if you have untag or scan images, use our OCR formats to help you with the remediation. And then if, for example, you're missing tags or you want to check the reading order, make sure you launch the structure remediation here. So it allows you to look at the reading order, add tags for your elements, and also add alternative descriptions for any images, as well as use the capabilities of the AI if you want to just generate them using those. One of the things that we have here for alternative formats are, or just to go back, as a student, your students don't have access to the accessibility report or the score of your documents. The only things that they'll be able to see will be the different alternative formats for those files that you have in your course. So one of the main things that we have here are source files. So this will be the original document. So if it's a Word document, you're downloading the Word document. We also have a PDF, so we'll just convert the file from a Word document to a PDF file, which you can either view in your browser or download to your device. The Immersive Reader, this will pop up in a separate screen and it's going to get the information from the document, the text, and you are able to listen out loud.
Political science, what this handout is about. This handout.
Okay, and then you can adjust the voice if you want the voice to be faster, slower, or if you want to select a female or a male voice. Over here on the right side, we have the text preferences, and you can make the font size bigger increase the spacing. You can also select a different font, or if you have a preference between the background color, you can select it as well. Here in the middle, we have the grammar preferences, so it allows you to highlight different parts of speech or select different colors for the highlight. And then we have the reading preferences, so it allows you to add a line of focus as you are reading the information, or you could also translate the document. So if you have any international students where English is not their first language, you can go in and select another language and you can use the immersive reader in that native language, okay? So that would be the immersive reader. Next, we have a gradient reader, and this just provides you with a gradient and color for word recognition. So students are able to go in, adjust the color shift, select the colors of the gradient, as you can see here, and it just helps with word recognition, recognizing the words in the document. Okay, the EPUB file. So in the case that your students have Kindles or they want to use the EPUB file for anything, any device with a smaller screen, they can just go in and download the EPUB file from here. The audio podcast, this will
Political
be,
science. What this handout is about.
this will just be the podcast, the MP3 file for the document, and you can either play it in the browser, you can download it to your device, you can also adjust the speed of the you can adjust the speed of the podcast itself as well. Can we turn off translation for students? Of course. So one of the things that I'll cover once we go into the reporting and the console, I'll show you how you can turn off the translations in the case that you are teaching a language course and you don't want them to use that tool. Okay. All right. We'll come back to math formats because I want to show you a specific example for this one. But again, we also have our own language translation available. And when you select a specific language, let's just say we pick French, for example, they can also download different alternative formats in those in that language. So the podcast, the EPUB file, the gradient reader, or the original source file as well. So I have a question here as to, I don't know which features to use. I always turn on the gradient reader? So by default, all of these alternative formats will be available for any file in the course. And the great thing about this is that your students will have the ability to pick whichever they like, whichever fits their needs, without having to reach out to someone to enable it for them. So I would recommend keeping all of the alternative formats available for the students, but with the exception for the language courses, of course, where they have the translation, you can turn that off. But other than that, I know from my previous clients that, just having all the options available for students, they can download whichever they like, just helps with that. And that way they don't have to reach out to you, say, hey, can you turn this on for me? Hey, I need this for my course. They'll just have the ability to generate whichever alternate format that they like.
So, really quick before you go,
Sure.
questions about, does students know which ones to turn on and how will they be educated about these issues? Will be Monday, I'm going to be posting a Canvas announcement for students saying like, hey, this is available. Here's some resources you can go to. And then we'll be sharing more broadly what they can do with them. So that will be coming for students. And then question in the room, Katie.
Kind of the same question as before. Does this have to be can the language translation be turned off for an entire course or cell? Or does it have to be done document by document? And if it's by course, how do we do that?
It is by course.
Okay.
And when you go into Panorama for accessibility, and then configurations, there should be course settings and you can turn specific alternative formats off.
Yeah, what are your nuggets?
Yeah.
Thank you. Do you know what languages are available?
What languages are available, Diana?
So we do support over 100 languages, and then we have a huge list on here. So I can also send you the list of all the languages, but we do support over 100. All right. Um, so yeah, we'll once we go into the settings for the course, I'll show you how you can disable those translations in the case that you want to disable them for your course. Text file. So this will just extract all the text from the file and just either download it as a text file, as you can see here. And then we did talk about the OCR format. So you as an instructor can use this technology to assist with the remediation of your PDFs. However, students can still go in and generate any OCR format that they like from this list. So it could be the overlay PDF. They could use the Immerser reader for those scan images. They can also use the gradient reader or listen to the podcast. So they'll be able to generate them as well. Okay. Braille format. So any user that is visually impaired, they can go in and download a Braille format that can be used in their Braille reader as well as a Braille reader as well. Okay. And then we also talked about leaving those library references. So in the case that there is one, the student can click into the reference and they're able to see the information that you add in here for the document. Okay. Right. I do want to talk about the math format, so let's go ahead and look at a math document. So in the case that you have, for example, a scan, you have a worksheet, or maybe you have handwritten notes with math equations. We do have what we called, let me see if I can show you one here that's a better example. Here we go. So in the case that maybe you have handwritten notes with equations, one of the things that we have available as an alternative format would be LaTeX. So you can download a LaTeX file, which would allow the students to use this with a screen reader. They can also input these into a specific calculator. So they can download that LaTeX file from here. Another thing is using the Immerser reader. So the Immerser reader is going to take the equation and is going to add it as text and read it out loud to the student.
Start math. A squared plus b squared equals c squared and math.
Okay. Another thing is just the plain math text. So we convert the equation into just plain text, just like we saw within the Immerser reader. Okay, and then we have the math audio. So again, it's just a podcast reading out loud those equations, or the MathML, which would be converting that into HTML content that you can add into your Canvas pages as well. Okay. Right. So those are all the different alternative formats that are available for files inside your courses, and it doesn't matter which file type it is, we will always have all of these alternative formats available for those files. Okay. All right.
Whitney, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was recommended that we use the OCR overlay. Do we see an example of that since that was recommended as like the primary way to go for PDF?
Yeah. Did you hear that question?
Sure. So just to double check here, oops, let me see here. So for the OCR, we talked about the reconstructed and then the overlay. So let me see if I can go back and restore this document so I can show you what that would look like. So let me restore the version. Okay. All right. So for the OCR overlay, let me see if this one will give it to me. Okay, so it's going to keep the same structure as you can see here, the image. However, I'm now able to go in and highlight the text that's available inside this document. So before, since it was just an image, I wasn't able to go in and detect it. Now I'm able to highlight, and as well, the screen readers will go in and read it out loud. So as you can see, it's the same document itself. It's just the text on top of that image. So we're able to detect it. Okay. Another thing that we also recommend is for those OCR, like the overlaid and the reconstructed, we do have a feature with Canvas where it allows you to convert this document to an actual page. So in the case that maybe you don't want to make this available as a PDF itself anymore, you just want to add it as a page in the course, we do have the OCR HTML. And if you click this little arrow next to it, it's going to add it as a page. So we just add a title here and click publish. And now we can go to the Canvas pages and it's going to create it as a page here in Canvas. So let me look for it. Here we go. And this is what it's going to look like. So it's going to take the text, the information from the document, and then just add it into a page itself. And as you can see, it looks a lot nicer than the actual PDF. So if you want to convert those scanned PDFs into a page itself, you can go in and do that for Canvas. So within your course, you will also have access to a Panorama link that you can click on. And this link will log you into the Panorama console, which will have reporting, settings, as well as a DuckHub available. So let me just briefly cover what's available for you as an instructor. So as an instructor, you will see a DuckHub, and what this is this is a repository where you can add content that doesn't necessarily live in your courses. So if you're working, let's say, in a project, maybe you work for the library and you need to add files so you can remediate or just generate alternative formats, you can go in here and upload any file you like from your computer. And once the file is uploaded, Panorama will go in and scan it for you and then provide you with the report as well as the different alternative formats. And if you worked on the remediation or you downloaded a specific format, you could also download or share with users. So if you go in and share it via email, that user will receive this window right here, just the alternative formats, and they can download any format they like. Okay, so DocHub repository that you can upload documents and you can work on remediation as well as generating different formats. For your students, they will see, if they have access to the DocHub, they'll be able to upload documents in here as well. However, they won't have the remediation or accessibility score options. They could only generate alternative formats. The to-do list. So we talked about adding documents from the accessibility report to the to-do list. So you will see all those documents that you added to the to-do list here. You can click into them and start working on the remediation from here. And once you are done working on the document, you can go back and just remove it from the list. And this only removes it from the list. It doesn't remove it from the course itself. And no problem. So in your course menu, you will see a UJA Panorama link. If you click into that, it's going to take you to reporting. But if you hover over the menu, you'll see the DocHub here on the top. Okay. And the DocHub, yes, correct. So once you click on that link, it's going to log you into your own account. So that means if you access the Panorama console from another course, it's always going to log you into the same DocHub. And I believe at the moment there's no limit on the files that you upload to the DocHub. Okay. All right. So we talked about the to-do list. This is only available for instructors. And go ahead, Madeline.
Hi, sorry, just wanted to check. So in order for students to access the service, we have to add the UYA Panorama up in the column for them?
Yes, so if you want the students to have access to the console, yes, you will have to just add the link to the course bar menu, and then they'll be able to click into the link and then they'll have access to their own DocHub. So they won't see any content that you upload. They'll have their own account with their DocHub.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
And students can also use the single sign-on Panorama link that's been in the chat. I will also put it on the GatorNet page. But in addition to that, in the course, students will see the blue accessibility icon for alternative formats, regardless of if Panorama is on your course menu.
Okay. All right. So the next thing will be reporting. So one of the things that you'll have access to will be a course report. So any courses where you're listed as an instructor, you will have a report for that specific course. So what it's going to do is it's going to take by default a year, and it's going to tell you the overall accessibility score. So that will be the average of uh, all the file scores. It's going to tell you how many files were scanned by Panorama. So you can see here that Panorama scanned 438 files. And then these are the improvements that we have made with the tool itself, either using the remediation engine or doing the manual process where we upload the new updated file. And then these are the number of alternative formats that are downloaded by any student. So this is great to see, especially if one, you're tracking to see what your overall score is, and two, are my students downloading the alternative formats within the course? Okay. Okay. Um, the graph that we're seeing here on our screen, this will be just information as to how the accessibility score changes over time for your course. But again, you can also narrow it down by specific file types. So maybe if you are only curious about your PDFs, you can go in and see how the score has improved over time for your PDFs. Down on the bottom, we also give you the types of documents that we scan for your course. So you can see here that I have a lot of PDFs within my course itself, and also the alternative formats that are downloaded by my students. So I can see that they're using the podcast as well as the other formats available as well. Okay, and if we scroll down, this is the section that I really wanted to show you, which would be the list of all the files and pages in your course. So instead of going into your course and clicking on different modules, pages, and so forth, if you come in here, you will see the list of all the files that we scan. And this is great because it allows you to either filter by the ones with the highest or the lowest score. And then also over here on the top, you can filter by specific file types or different score ranges. You can also search by a specific file name. And then over here under issues, you can also filter or search by specific issues. So one of the things that I've seen for workflows are that users are going in working on severe items first. So within my course, there's 3 specific severe issues, and it tells me the number of instances that the issue comes up. So if I select the drop down, as you can see here, the document is scanned, for example, it's going to give me all the documents that are scanned within my course, and I can click into it and I can go in and start remediating those files from here. So it allows you to select on what items you would like to start working on first, maybe the ones with the severe issues or the ones with the lowest score first. And then over here on the right side, we have the files remediated. So it gives you information as to, okay, these are all the files that I worked on. That was their previous score. This is their new score. So you're able to see the work that you've done so far. Okay, so one of the things that I have recommended for my other clients are maybe start working on the documents that have the lowest accessibility. Typically, those have severe major items, and just make your way through. And typically, once you work on those documents, your score will be a lot higher once you remediate them. Okay. One thing to note is that these reports update every night. So in the case that you worked on maybe 20 documents during the day and you see that the score is still the same, don't worry, it will update at night. However, you do have the ability to come here on the top and click refresh, and that will give you the most up-to-date analytics for your report. And if you want to maybe look at a different course, you can click on switch course and select a different one, and it's going to give you, again, the report for that course as well. Okay, and then so any questions about the report? So we talked about the course report and the type of information that you have. Any questions before I talked about the settings and how to turn off the translation, for example, for your course? Okay. All right. So if we go in and click configuration, you will have access to general settings. And as an instructor, you will have access to your course settings. So in this specific example, we're looking at the biology course, and these are the settings that we can toggle on or off. So we did talk about the alternative formats. So if we look here on the right side, we have the alternative formats menu options, and this is where you can go in and disable any of those alternative formats that we talked about. So in the case that you want to turn off the language translation, you can disable it from here, and this will turn it off from the alternative format as well as the immersive reader option. Okay. So you are able to go in, take a look at the alternative formats available for your courses, and in the case that you want to toggle one off, you can do that from here. Okay. And this will be at a specific course basis. So in the case that you want to apply the same for a different course, you can come in here, you can click into switch course, and then you can select the other course and just turn that off. Sure. So over here on the left-hand side, you will see a configuration page, a tab. Go ahead and click General Settings. And as an instructor, you will see the course settings here. So the settings do not copy over. So we only copy over, or they don't transfer over, I would say. So in the case that you made a lot of you turn off a lot of alternative formats or a lot of customization, you can import these settings to your new course shell. So you can select the course, and then we'll apply those same settings to that course. It's just very easy to just click to import the settings. Go ahead, Jennifer.
So if I'm a student and they're in a course that has turned off the translation, and I download my document, and then I go into a completely different Canvas course where that instructor has enabled translation, and I upload that document, will I be able to translate it?
So we'll only provide
Yes.
translations to whatever is available in the course. So my question would be, would the student have access to uploading files to the course modules itself, or?
So students will have access to their own Doc Hub, right?
Right.
Okay, then in that case, then yes.
Okay, so a student who understood the situation could potentially figure out which courses had not turned it on and do a translation. I'm just trying to understand the structure of it. So, okay, thank you.
No problem.
Could
Correct,
you
yes.
go back to the reports page for me?
Sure.
I just wanted to make this clear to everybody. There is a little red button at the top that says reprocess course. Don't do it. Don't touch it. Removes any changes you've made in Panorama and restarts your course. So just let it go. Let it be.
Yeah, this one we typically only use it for troubleshooting. In the case something is not scanning, then we typically use this to troubleshoot. So if you want to do refresh, it will be right here on the top.
And what happens if by mistake we use it?
So what
What
happens
will
is
happen?
when you click reprocess, what it's going to do is Panorama is going to go in and rescan each individual file that you have available. So it's going to, again, check for any issues, pretty much rescan everything. And typically when you remediate a file, we re-embed it back into Canvas, so we have the updated copy here. But in some instances where maybe it wasn't updated yet, then you might lose that remediated file. So that's why we try to stay away from the reprocess button. Okay. All right. Um, and I think other than that, from the console, just the general settings for the institution, um, you might see over here on the upper right-hand side, if you click into your account icon, you will see a support tab. And then this tab will take you to our support page where we have guides on how to help you use Panorama. So you will see a section here called Panorama Accessibility Platform. If you click into that, we break down the guides into different sections, different topics. And also, if you want to use one of the guides that we have available for Canvas for your students, where it tells them the different types of alternative formats and also a video tutorial, you can share this out as well. So what I'll do is I'll share here in the chat the link to our support page. But other than that, if you need help, such as like some of the items that came up during the training today, feel free to either use the chat option. You can just enter your name, your institution email, and then someone will be able to help you through chat. Or also we have, again, a phone number as well as that email to support where a live agent will be able to help you with any questions that do come up. Right. Other than that, I hope this was a good training. Hopefully it was helpful to you. I know there's a couple of items that I still need to check back since I wasn't able to answer them today, but I'll definitely get back to your administrators with more updates on that. But yeah, other than that, this is all I
One
have
more
for you.
question, Diana, if that's all
Sure,
right.
no problem.
When students upload files that are not accessible, will those be scanned and will they come up as needing remediated?
When they upload the files, where would they upload them on? Just
So like on a discussion board or to an assignment, like
oh,
on
okay.
the student side?
Yes, so those we don't scan. So we don't scan any student submissions for accessibility or in the discussions, in the discussions we only scan the actual, let me just show you here.
The instructor content, probably.
Correct. So we'll only scan this in the description, but any other threads that come about, we don't, just because we know how that might affect the overall accessibility score of the course as well as the institution.
All right. Thank you so much, Diana, for coming and teaching about this tool.
Of course. No problem. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy your Friday and yeah, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.